like they had just gutted their newsroom. People were losing jobs, and they were letting me double dip. They never let anybody double dip. So once again, they're like, hey, here's your shot. Show what you can do on the
Yeah.
sports site and show what you can do in the communities. And I was hitting the front page, dude. And you're not supposed to be hitting the front page as a freelancer. They would even lie. They would change my title. It would say Jose Arredondo correspondent. That means you're a freelancer.
Yeah.
They would change it to staff writer.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, no, 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 no. Let them know that I'm not on your salary. Let them know that I don't have benefits. Let them know that I'm just a freelancer. So then, like I said earlier, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, 2019 comes around. I've been doing my thing for a year and a half now. Spectrum calls, and it was the perfect marriage. It's a journey, man. It was a journey. There's so many times where I fell on my face. There's so many times where you just have writer's block and you feel helpless. There's so many times where it's like, man, everybody else is like, are you sure this is the right thing for you?
Yeah.
Are you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, what if it doesn't work out for you? I'm like, that's not an option.
It has to.
For me, like, that's my message to people out there is like, yo, like, you don't need anybody to validate your dreams. Like, they don't see it, that's on them. But as long as you see it, as long as you feel it, like, just keep going. Because, bro, I struggled for a minute.
What up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the GINN podcast. This is your host, GWeezy11. Shout out to y'all. Y'all been killing it lately with all the shares, likes, comments, everything in general. Honestly, one thing I want to know too, just before I get into the introduction, y'all been watching my reels a lot lately on Instagram, which is fucking dope. Y'all been sharing those to your Instagram stories. Appreciate that. But we are back, episode 38. If you're looking right now on YouTube, you already know who the guest is. If you're on all podcast platforms, I think SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you gotta wait or go ahead to the YouTube and check us out. But nonetheless, on this episode, it's gonna be a jam-packed. I got a ton of questions for him, some good information too as well. And then this has been a long time coming for me. I know I wanted you on a couple weeks ago. You're a busy man. I'm a busy man. Like, stuff got in the way, but no worries. You're here. Got my boy. What's up, Jose? How you doing?
I am doing well. How about yourself, bro?
I'm good, man. Instagram name is Sports Guy Jose, right?
Yeah, at Sports Guy Jose, Instagram, Twitter, MySpace. I'm just joking. I'm not on MySpace.
Yeah, everybody knows him as Sports Guy Jose. But yeah, man, real quick, I want to just say how we kind of got into how you're here, basically. So recently I had Hector. Shout out to Hector, 4112 Threads.
Yep.
Amazing dude. Crazy ass fucking program, or I don't even know what you call it, but just the shit he is doing with 4112 Threads is fucking phenomenal. I was so inspired when I heard the story. That's why we had him on here. He connected me to Jose, and yeah, that's it.
He actually connected me. I was visiting my girlfriend. She lives in New York, and I was there for 2 weeks. I was there during the snowstorm, so I wasn't even able to cover the snowstorm as a reporter because I was stuck in New York.
Back in February.
Yeah, I couldn't fly back into San Antonio, so I flew back in. It was like February 22nd, I believe, and Lanier was playing McCollum, so Hector wanted to go to the game, and I was like, well, I'll just go cover it and just hang out with me,
Yeah.
You'll be my intern for the day. So we went to the game, and I only had like a couple hours of sleep that day. And then we had barbecue afterwards, and that's when he was telling me about you. He's like, yeah, man, my boy's trying to reach out to you. But Hector knows everybody, dude. Everyone knows him, dude. It's crazy how it took me forever. It took me last year in December to finally meet him in person.
Yeah.
Because we always knew about each other. I grew up with his brother. So it's really crazy how small San Antonio is, even though we're a large city.
Yeah, and it's growing too, but still small.
Yeah, still small. Still feels like a small town.
Yeah, I got you. First thing I want to get into is because I saw you whenever I went outside. Your shirt, it says 78207. Of course, I got a lot more questions, but I wanna know what. Obviously, that's a zip code. It's a zip code in San Antonio, but I want to know what that means to you and kind of what yeah.
No, that's a great question, bro. 78207, like for me, it's one of the most economically disadvantaged zip codes, not only in San Antonio, but in Texas. And, I grew up there. So if you're not familiar with the numbers, the Lanier, Guadalupe area, that's pretty much 78207. You know, it's a huge zip code. There's a lot of people in it. But it means a lot to me because, and we'll probably get into this later. I'll just, give you the broader version of it.
Yeah, yeah.
My mother passed away when I was 15. So after she passed away, I moved across town, lived with my sister. She was only 20 at the time. So I'm going to Lee High School my sophomore year. Then I end up living with my dad, who I hated at the time, for 1 year. And I'm going to Roosevelt. So Roosevelt's where I eventually graduated from. But after that, I was living with my aunt and uncle during my college days, my first, 4 years, because it took me 5 years to get my degree, 4.5 years. So I was living in Alamo Heights. They didn't have money, but they were living in Alamo Heights.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was living there in my college days, but I would miss the West. I mean, I missed the West Side as soon as I moved across town when I was 15. And I would take the bus. I would always take the bus from the Malibu Castle area, I-10, 410 when it intersects, all the way to South Somewhat and Brady.
Shit.
So I would take it every day because it's just like, well, I'm still trying to grieve my mother's death. I miss my neighborhood. I'm in a better school, but I miss my friends or the people who I thought were my friends. So it just means so much to me. I think it meant more to me as an adult, a young adult in college, because as soon as my mom passed away, I dedicated my life to volunteering with the youth. So San Juan Community Center, which is not open at the moment because of COVID, I was a participant there since 2001. So in 2010, when my mom died, I was like, all right, I got to give back somehow the way mom did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just going back and seeing those kids, seeing kids that reminded me of my friends that I grew up with, and just knowing that, man, like, you don't have a fair shot at life the way I did, the way my peers did, you know? And it just breaks your heart. And then you go around, you see the Alazan courts built in the 1940s, the 40s.
I didn't even know that. Shit, I know.
Built in the 40s. There's some of the oldest housing projects in the nation, and they still look the same. There's mold. There's rodents.
I know where those courts are at, but I didn't know they're built that fucking long ago.
Yeah, dude, they were built in the 40s, dude, and like it just breaks your heart. And knowing me, like, because where I was living at the time with my aunt and uncle, I had a full-time internship, full-time work schedule, full-time school schedule. But I always said, like, let's dedicate at least 30 minutes to an hour with the kids. There's no excuse.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? Go in a coffee shop and pretend we're on a computer when we could use that time to be with the kids? And the kids remember that. A lot of these kids already, and they're in high school now. Some of them are in college. And they remember that. They remember when I was an intern for Spectrum, who I'm employed by right now, when I would cover the Spurs. And I would leave, my last class, go to the community center, change into my suit, hang out with the kids, and then head to the game. And, it was just, for them, it's just like, wow, like, this guy's like doing cool things. They thought I was rich. I was like, no, dude. Like, I was a broke college kid. But for them, it just meant the world to them. And, a lot of them, they're older now. And I'm like, yo, like, stop growing up. Like, this is weird that I used to watch over you. And now, like, you're like engaged. Like, this is weird. I'm not even engaged. Yeah. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So that's what 708 Tips means to me. It's just a place that molded me and made me the man you see today. And I just want to make 78207 better, than it was when I grew up in it. I don't want it to be a struggling community, for my own ego to be like, hey, look what I came out of. It's like, no, it's like, hey, look at this beautiful neighborhood I came out of. It was rough at one point when I was growing up. It was rough for a couple decades or, for its existence, but now it's thriving because of myself and many other people who wanted to give back.
You brought up kind of a good point and kind of what you do on a daily basis. So, so you work at Spectrum News. So if you could basically just kind of give an overview and a broad description of like what you basically do at Spectrum News, your kind of job, occupation, and yeah.
So I am a multimedia journalist. So essentially what I do is I shoot my stories, I edit them, I go in front of the camera, I go live, I do everything essentially. So that's pretty much what I do. So at Spectrum, what we've been doing since they hired me, actually. So I was a struggling freelancer in 2018, 2019. I was killing it at the Express News. Front page stories. A freelancer should never make the front page of a paper. But I was just giving them these stories they've never seen before.
Yeah.
And I was getting rejection after rejection, applying for jobs. Even Spectrum, I applied for some social media job at Spectrum. Didn't get it. And then out of nowhere, they just, the senior producer reaches out to me. Hey, we're looking for a San Antonio person who can tell compelling San Antonio stories. You check all these boxes. If you're interested, apply. And I was like, what? But the thing that I was scared of is like, oh, I don't want to do like breaking news stuff though, like fires and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I called one of my old friend, or he's my colleague now. He's one of my old mentors, John Salazar. And I told him, I was like, hey, I check all these boxes, but I haven't been in front of a camera in forever. He's like, you're scared to be in front of a camera? I'm like, no. I was like, I just want them to know I'm gonna be rusty. Like, I want to work here. Like, you know, it's very promising. And literally, it was the perfect marriage. They were making that shift to being community oriented. Like I told you before, we started recording. LA Spectrum News, they own us. So they're the reason why we're in the storytelling direction. Why when you see Spectrum News on your TV, it's compelling stories that you see in your everyday community, because that's what we're doing. We're telling issue-based stories, highlighting stuff that needs to be highlighted. You know, a lot of people, they just, all right, we mentioned it briefly. You know, one of the anchors mentioned it briefly and that's it. It's like, no, like we need to peel it layer by layer. And it's just not one story and we're done. It's like, no, stay with that story, follow it. So right now a beat is essentially a topic you cover. So right now, I found out a couple months ago that my beat is social justice. And my bosses were like, you already been covering stuff like this, so you're good. And I was actually the first reporter to know what their beat was, because they were trying to figure out, all right, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And it's cool. Like I can highlight, you know, a basketball coach who's changing their community, or an artist who's, you know, impacting the lives of people, and the whole state gets to see it, because not only do we air in San Antonio, we air in Austin, the Valley, Dallas, Laredo, Corpus. I think I said El Paso already, but we're in all of those markets. So they get to see the beautiful gente of San Antonio, because we all share one station and we're all literally just one team. So it's really dope. So that's pretty much what I do. It's been passionate about this for 5 years now.
This is a question I don't have written down, but how do you choose like your actual topics or what stories to actually kind of pursue? Is that just your choice, or is that someone else's choice?
I get asked that every day. That's crazy. They're all my stories, dude. All my stories.
So you pick them, or you just like...
They're mine. They're my ideas that I pitch.
Oh, okay.
Literally, like, there's some reporters who, like, I say that I'm lucky because we're not lucky. I'm here because of my hard work, but I don't have a TV background the way all my coworkers do.
Yeah.
I was a print reporter, which means I learned all the fundamentals of reporting. You know, for my, you know, my colleagues or maybe other people who are TV reporters, they had to learn how to, you know, operate in front of a camera. So their time's divided into not only trying to report, but also doing that. For me, I already had the foundation. I had it to a T, and I didn't have old habits to break. Because when we ditched the whole breaking news stuff, all my coworkers were like, but like, I was molded like this for years. Yeah. Like I was told that this is how it's supposed to do it. And I just felt bad for them, because for me, it's just like, all right, Jose, this is how you're supposed to do it. I'm like, okay. I mean, if that's what you say, I'm going to do it. You know, and we did this boot camp called Rosenblum, and literally it's like they train people who are in like BBC, Discovery, like all these big entities. And we have a great relationship with them. They were training us how to shoot, how to do like more like movie-esque storytelling. You know, instead of like your typical, all right, we're going to sit Juanito down on the chair and ask him why, you know, his Steel's ice cream truck is the best on the west side.
Yeah.
And like they'll cut to him, right? And then they'll go to like a random ice cream truck. It's like, okay. And then it comes back to him again. It's just random B-roll. For me, like all of my stories, it's them moving, them doing stuff, them taking you somewhere. Like, you know, if I did a story on you, I would have you meeting somebody downstairs. We come upstairs. You're like getting your mic ready.
Then you already had this planned out. Already have it planned out.
No, and that's how I like. They tapped into something like a creative, not genius. I'm not gonna say I'm a genius, but something creative that I had in myself. They brought that out of me, and it's just so cool. Like I get to do not whatever I want, but I get to do the stories that I want to do. I get to shoot it how I want to shoot it, because I do everything. It's just really cool. I always say it's the perfect marriage. I always tell my director, Larissa. We had breakfast one time on Guadalupe Street at a hole in the wall. My favorite, Linda's on Guadalupe. Best breakfast tacos. So she met with me, and I remember her telling me, she's like, if anyone ever tries to take your voice away, let me know. I don't need you to be, hey, I'm Joe Arredondo. I'm here and such and such. She's like, no, I want you to be Jose Arredondo. I want you to be that West Side kid that you are. And bro, hearing that from the big boss lady who's like,
Yeah.
it's just really cool to have people like that. I have a lot of coworkers, first 2 months at Spectrum, they help me tweak, little things. They're like, hey, try this. Hey, when you edit this, try and do this. Like, be snappy with your shots. Be quick or paste at some stories. Some stories beg for that. So I'm fortunate enough to have like really great mentors.
It's like, they're critiquing it, but in a good way.
Yeah, and my boss, I remember she told me one time, she's like, I've never had to deal with somebody who's dealt with criticism as well as you do. She's like, you just listen and you apply it, and if it doesn't work out, it's fine, but you at least apply it and you try it, and if it works for you, you use it. And like, she's like, there's a reason why, if you go to my first 10 stories at Spectrum, I'm like, America's diamond ring. Oh, so terrible. Like I was showing my girlfriend, a story. I did a story on this woman on the east side. She picked cotton in the 40s in West Texas, moved here in 47, experienced a great deal of racism everywhere, and she's still alive. Beautiful, beautiful black woman, full of life, spews out Bible verses, spews out wisdom. And I did a story on her because I have like this 4-year relationship with her. Like she's just one of my favorite people to do stories on. Last year I did a story when I first started at Spectrum, and this year I did another one. And it's night and day. It's just like, she does this and that. And now it's just like, this is Dorothy Mother Mundane, and she has the best seat in the house during the MLK March. It's totally different. And it's because of my mentors, my bosses. And they care about me, dude. It's so cool to be at a place where people value you.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people out there who are at places that don't value them. And, it sucks, dude. I don't take what I have for granted because I love where I'm at.
I have friends that are just get treated like shit, man. They don't get paid what they're supposed to get paid. They especially with like what they're doing, the type of task they're basically doing manager tasks, but getting paid like a regular employee.
Oh my gosh.
It sucks, man. But I mean, that
exploitation at its finest, bro.
They're still there, so that's on them.
Yeah.
But no, that's a good point, man. You kind of gave us a basis of literally everything you do, which is wild. I want to touch though.
Yeah.
So you even edit your videos.
Mm-hmm.
So
after this, I'll show you my timeline on my stories. It's crazy.
Oh, I got you. What software do you use?
Final Cut.
Oh, okay.
It's basically iMovie on steroids, which I love.
Yeah. So this is way off topic, but like,
no, you're good.
Have you ever messed with the Adobe Premiere?
No, that's like foreign to me, bro.
It's complex. Well, have you even opened it or anything? Like,
I've seen it. I've seen other people use it, and I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm good.
So I've started dabbling into Adobe Premiere, and it's definitely a transition. There's a lot more things you can do than Final Cut Pro, because that's what I use to edit these videos and most of my Instagram videos too as well. And it's pretty straightforward. I have like different templates I use, and everything's set up pretty nice. But when you go to Adobe, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, just a thought. But it's worth it though. I've heard that there's a lot more things you can do.
Is it like a monthly thing or a yearly thing?
It's both. So you can do monthly or yearly.
Okay.
I think I just do monthly for actually all the apps. I think I pay like $20 a month. Yeah, $20 a month, and you literally get. I don't even know all the apps, but I know I use Photoshop here and there, Adobe Premiere. This is Adobe Edition, what I'm recording on right now. So
yeah, Photoshop's the only one that I know. And even at that, like I would use like bootleg versions of Photoshop.
Yeah.
Just because it's just like, man, like for me, like I mean, you see my camera right here. I don't edit my photos too much. I tweak them a little bit. You know, if it's like a little bit over, it's just like it's too bright. Let me darken it a little bit, but I don't like deep fry it. The way Kawhi Leonard deep fried his picture at the White House.
No, yeah. Bro, I had someone ask me the other day, or like maybe this was a month ago, not the other day, like the Instagram reels that I do, like they're basically just asking me, how do you edit the video like that? Like not even the portion size, the size of the actual video to fit the like the pixels and stuff like that. Just like the editing process, like how I got it to look that way. And I was like, literally, I just get it from my camera that I'm using right now, put the pixel size, frame it, export it to Final Cut Pro. Export it from Final Cut Pro to my iPhone via AirDrop.
Yeah.
And just use iPhone like
AirDrop
filters.
I love AirDrop so much. I had a friend show me AirDrop like 3 years ago. I barely found out about AirDrop 3 years ago. I was like, bro, because I used to text message my photos from my laptop to my phone, and it would lose a little bit of resolution. And my friend's like, why do you do that? I'm like, well, it's the only way because I can't, you know,
Yeah.
like you can't just put a card into here. Or I used to have the little thing where you just stick it in there and then you just put your SD card in there.
Yeah.
But now I just have AirDrop, and now my camera's nicer than my old camera, and I could just Bluetooth them to my phone.
Yeah, literally iPhone settings is filters is literally all I use. And then even at that, like some of the like exposure highlights, like the actual settings you have to mess with, I just go in there, mess with it, and then just kind of dabble in it. And literally it comes out what I put on Instagram. So it's not even that fancy. Like I don't use anything. Yeah, literally. I'm very simple, man. Like
People think that they could just do stuff on their phone, and like people are like, oh, I thought my iPhone had all these features on it. I'm like, yeah, but like it's still a phone at the end of the day. Like you can't like
it's shit. It's a lot better than what we had 20 years ago, what people had 20 years ago.
dude, like 8 years ago, man. I look at my Galaxy S3. I'm like, man, these photos are crappy. I thought they were great photos for that time.
How was you brought up a good point. What's the transition like? Or do you still have an iPhone right here?
Yeah, I have an iPhone. My personal phone's XR, and then my work phone is an 11.
Oh, okay. So they're both iPhones. So
Yeah.
When did you transition from like an Android to an iPhone?
As soon as iPhone 6 came out.
Oh, okay. So it's been a while.
Yeah, I ditched Galaxy, and I'm sure it's fine. But like, everyone has an iPhone, so it's just like you gotta adapt with it because
it's just easier.
Everyone has that one cousin or one family member who has an Android, and it ruins the group message.
Literally,
it's like oh my god, I have one cousin. He's the only one. Green, and then everyone's just like, "Why?" I send videos, like I'll send my stories in our group chat. They're like, "Man, what the hell did you record this on?" And I was like, "Bro, it's because freaking pendejo over here has an Android, and like it
messes up everything."
Yeah. So you gotta adapt with the times, and I'm sure Androids can take really great photos, but it's just like, when you send it from one type of phone to another, it's not gonna transition at all.
Yeah. No, I got you. With social media though. And I know I talk about this off air, the type of news outlet that is kind of distributed with social media, with shit just being like this. Literally, I mean, fucking Kobe's death was on Twitter before his fucking family knew. That was huge, and fucking feel so bad for Vanessa. But like that literally was like the pinpoint of how fast information is distributed without even thoughts. Like everybody wants to be the biggest thing. Everybody wants to TMZ apparently, but even at that, like what's the biggest, like from actual being on TV versus social media? What was like how was the transition? Because social media is huge.
It is, but the problem is and I'm glad Twitter's getting better at it, especially with 45. Whenever he would tweet stuff that is factually incorrect, they would have that message like, "Hey, this is
who's 45."
Trump.
Oh,
I just call him 45.
I was like, "Who the fuck is?"
I'm sorry,
45?
my bad.
No, you're good. You're good. I just
call him 45.
I should have known by that, but
I don't want to give him
Yeah, I know what you mean, but yeah,
we don't need to give him clout. Nah, but it's just annoying. Everybody wants to be first and not right. That's what really upsets me. Is everybody wants to be first and not right. So for me, it's like if I show up to a like let's say everyone's covering something, right? You see every news station, every newspaper.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the last person to leave. And the reason for that is because it's just like, not to be like, all right, you see where the crowd is, go away from the crowd. I believe in that, but sometimes you got to be with the crowd a little bit, but, stay a little bit longer, let it breathe. And where that mindset or, those values benefited me the most was when we had the protest on May 30th, and, it obviously ended in a riot. I was there from 3 because the girl who organized the protest, Camilla, I spent time with her the day before. So we used to have these things called we still have them. They're called day turns. So you're the main day reporter. You pitch your story 9 a.m., have it done by 4. We used to do it where it was like 6 straight days, or I'm glad we don't do that anymore.
Damn.
Now it's just like, all right, we'll day turn like 3 or 4 times a month, which is so much easier. Especially now that our team is bigger. But I did a story on Camilla, and I was like, I want to tell the story of what you don't see activists do. So them buying goods at a grocery store. So I spent time with her at a grocery store. Great story. Next day is the protest. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna follow up with her. It's my last day turn of the day or the week. Um, I shot another story that morning too. It was a split shift. It was crazy, and it was the only day I could shoot that other story. So I meet with her at 3 o'clock, Travis Park. Peaceful protest. Nothing went. It was smooth. It was so smooth. It was actually very incredible. It was,
Smooth, yeah.
and it was the biggest march that I've seen in recent memory. Aside from the MLK one, because the MLK is the largest one. But this was something that actual activists, not like, other entities are like, hey, let's all, because when they had the MLK marches, all these companies show up. Everyone wants
Yeah.
to show face and, pretend they care. But this was like, people from the community, trying to mourn the loss of George Floyd. And March went really well. They left, the people who peacefully protested, they left, but more people saw in the news. They saw like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of people there. So news reporters, they showed up. They saw it was peaceful. They left. Things started to pick up a bit because there was militia guys who they say were defending the Alamo.
Yeah.
So they had their guns with them.
Yeah, I remember
And, some people who aren't activists, people just wanted to show up. They took the bait. And, they started exchanging words. And then, like, police officers showed up in, kind of in riot gear. And I'm like, oh, man, this is like 6, 7 o'clock, Then it cooled off. And I was like, all right, cool. Now I can go home and put the story
So
together.
you're still there downtown?
I'm still there.
Okay.
And then I'm like, all right. And then as soon as I get in my car, one of our planning managers, she no longer works with us. She's like, they're looting the River Center Mall. And I'm like, bro, I was about to turn my car on. So then I go back and there's a wall of cops. You can't even get to River Center. There's a girl on the floor. And I'm just recording this, getting as much as I can. Girl's coughing. I can't say apparently because, I mean, her phone basically got confiscated from SAPD. She got hit with tear gas. The only reason why I can confirm that is because I saw the cop give it back to the girl.
Yeah.
And the guy, some other guy who witnessed everything, explained everything to me, and they gave the phone to him to give to her, which I also had in my story. And then I get hit with tear gas. Worst feeling ever. I do not recommend it. 10 out of 10 do not recommend. So I was there. So, you had the reporters who were there for the peaceful part. They dipped. Something in me said, let's just stay longer. Let's just stay longer. Let's just stay longer. I had the whole day in one story when everybody else either had the peaceful part or just the riot.
Yeah.
And that's all they could do because they weren't there the whole day. So, and that's what I mean by like, I'd rather be the right story than the first one, because if you're anybody watching either of those stories, they're both not wrong, but it's not the whole story. It's just a piece of it. So that's why I tell people, be the right story. Don't be the first one, because if you're the first one and you're wrong, that's worse than, that's a lot worse, than being the last one and right.
These fucking sheriff officers that are, that I don't, honestly, Vanessa Bryant was kind of putting pictures up.
Oh, the one who took the picture of Kobe?
Yeah, and like was showing other people, I think. And
at
she
the
was,
bar, yeah.
Yeah. And she was just putting like who their names are. I guess like I'm not too sure. What is it? Like a statement that she was putting out?
Yeah,
too,
she was. So at first they were gonna. I know this vaguely, but they were trying to prevent them from putting their names out there because it would hurt them or whatever. Yeah. But I'm like, if you're a public figure, you lose that privacy. And I want people to know that. You got to know this. Like your council person, whatever, you can call their cell phone as much as you want. They're public figures. They're servants. I do it when I need a story or I need some information.
Yeah.
Like yesterday. That's one thing I learned through my mentors is, you lose. And I learned that in media law class. Shout out Dr. Brantley. He's a great professor. But like, let's say, it was just a random person, not a cop, nobody. They probably work, they're probably work at a call center. They have more rights to privacy than a sheriff does, because
that is interesting.
Yeah. And I want people to know that it's like when you're a public figure like Trump, when he would complain about the media or whatever, it's like, well, you're the president of the United States. You're an elected official. You can't complain. Like, it's like if you become a celebrity, it's like you can't complain about paparazzi. Yeah. It's like you're a celebrity now. Obviously not everyone chooses to be a celebrity, but still it's like you have to understand where you're at, and you kind of lose those rights. So a lot of people that try and sue others for libel or whatever, it's like, well, you're a public figure. So, it just depends. But so whenever they were trying to say, oh, we don't want, they were trying to defend them and say like, no, like it's going to hurt. It's like, well, I mean, he like, it, he ruined someone's privacy. You know, a person who's not even here anymore. Him and his daughter are gone, and
Yeah.
the other folks that were on that plane. It's just like, you know, one is like it's completely wrong, and two is like he's a public figure. So like he as a sheriff or whatever law enforcement, if you're a police officer, that's another one. Our tax dollars pay for their salaries.
Yeah.
So they lose a lot of rights, and a lot of people. I feel like I hope a lot of people get to learn their rights as just citizens in general. There's a lot of messed up things that are
Yeah.
legal, but they're not ethical, or they're legal but they're not ethical. So like for me, it's like whenever you see like TMZ people and like they're like recording someone from like a sidewalk, it's like, well, technically speaking, they can be on that sidewalk. It's
Yeah.
a public sidewalk, and if the window's open, whatever. Technically speaking, it's fair game, but I don't know how people can do that. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how people can just do that to other people.
In my eyes, man, you're changing the game, because you're covering stories that, and you just talked about it. You're covering stories that are impacting the community. So, you just finished talking about how, honestly, you pick these stories, but I mean, it's good that you pick them because you have the side of town you grew up on, so you have that background. You know what
Yeah.
you know what it's like. Obviously, a huge part of your life was your mother passing, so that kind of transitioned the way it did into your everyday life. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
But I think the thing is with some of these people is like, man, I
They
don't know
don't-
if it's just they want that shine for just a little bit.
They want that clout, man. Like
Yeah, literally,
I
just
I
to
met
feel on
s-
top of the world.
I've met so many reporters who they want to put on this illusion, this facade that they believe or they care, but they don't. They don't. And I see right through it. The people see right through it. And it just sucks because they kind of ruin it for the other people who, like me, I'm just glad I have a great reputation in my community or in San Antonio because they know I care. I will go on a day off to see how they're doing. You know, that that separates me from everybody else, but it also shows that hey, like this is more than just a story to me.
Yeah,
You're not just another clip in my reel. You're not just another person that gave me a story for my portfolio. It's like you're someone who I thought had a very compelling story and it needed to be told. And people thank me all the time, and it's cool. But like what they don't understand is like I'm a stranger. You don't know me.
yeah,
I can literally go up to someone right now. Hey, I'm a reporter at Spectrum News. I would like to tell your story. 99% of the time, they're probably going to say yes. And they don't even know me. I have friends that are therapists, and they always joke with me. They're like, man, Jose, it takes me weeks to get someone to open up to
Yeah.
me, and they just pour their whole soul out to you in like 10, 15 minutes. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like,
yeah,
it's weird. It's just so weird. People will trust me, and I value that trust, because they're telling me things they probably haven't told anybody else, or
and it's gonna be aired on.
it's gonna be
Yeah,
aired. And
on TV.
I always tell them like, hey, like they always thank me for the story. I'm like, you're the one who trusted me. You're the one who opened up to me. You're the one who made time for me. So like, this is your story. Like it's literally your story.
Yeah.
So like, I never try and say my story. I always say a story that I just recently did or a story I did on this person because it's not mine. It's their story.
Yeah.
I'm just putting it together in a way where I hope the public can understand and empathize with them or connect with them.
Yeah.
I always tell people if I do a story on someone from the West Side, everyone from the West Side is gonna know, but I want someone from across the town, to feel it,
Yeah,
to understand it, because I feel like, well, not feel, it's true. Like we're so segregated in San Antonio,
100%.
economically, racially, anything you could think of. We're segregated. There's a reason why we have 16 school districts, bro. Austin don't even have 16 school districts. And there's a reason for that. That's why Alamo Heights is always going to thrive.
Yep.
That's why, all these other pockets are going to, struggle. It's because of the way things are structured. They don't want certain people to be in these spaces. Like I shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
After, it sucked when my mom died. And the good that I take out of that is I went to different school districts, and I was able to understand like, wow, like there is a life beyond the West Side. Not that there's a life beyond here, I'm going to forget about it, but there's a life beyond here where I could learn, come back, and make my neighborhood, better.
Yeah, 100%. I wanna backtrack a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
If you could, so with being a journalist, if you could take me through like the steps of how you got there, like in high school, any classes you took. For me, I mean, you don't even have to say high school because I don't remember shit.
No, I remember everything, dude.
Really? Oh,
I
okay.
remember everything.
I mean, college, what classes you took in there, just to
Yeah.
kind of get a rundown of like what steps you took to actually be where you're at today.
I'll tell you a funny story on how the seed got planted. So, um, there was a time in seventh grade where my mother got sick, and my grandma had died, so we were homeless. Basically, we were just going from house to house. My mom was in the hospital, and my tia and my tío. I always say that I'm the Mexican Fresh Prince. I'll explain why.
Yeah.
Not because it was my favorite show growing up, because it was, but I moved from the west side of San Antonio with my tia, who's my mom's sister. So it's like Aunt Vivian, and I forgot Will's mom's name. Should know her name, but you know, um, basically, my tia was my Aunt Vivian. Her husband, Theo Bob, he's Uncle Phil. My Theo at the time was this millionaire realtor. Like, he's not even a realtor. He was coaching realtors. He didn't even have to sell a house. He hadn't had sold a house in like 10 years at the time. Making all this money, and they lived 1604 Banderas. So there was this gated community off of Prue Road. So right behind Brandeis. So move in with him, right? Their only son, his name is Carlos. He's Carlton. He's like the cousin who became my brother. He's like my older brother. Love him to death. And so I moved there, and dude, night and day, man.
Culture change.
Culture change. I'm around these
Yeah.
kids who their parents have 2 cars.
Yep.
They have money for college. They have money for a car when they're turning 16. They got it, And so my Theo, he would teach me life lessons. So we only lived with him for like a year and a half. My mom for a year. I stayed for like a little bit longer until 8th grade. Then I moved back to the west side. But dude, it was just a crazy experience. But little things like putting sodas into an ice chest for a party, I just put them in there. He's like, hey, when I ask you to do something, you do it right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the hell? Who the hell are you? No,
Yeah,
you're just my Theo. Like, what the hell? But for him, it's just like, these are little things. Hey, when you sit when you're on a date with a girl, this is how you're supposed to, conduct yourself. This is where you're supposed to have your silverware. This is how you're supposed to hold your fork. When I was in like 6th grade, I used to hold my fork like an idiot, like that.
Yeah.
And he just corrected me, but I didn't know better. My dad's from Mexico, dude, And little things like that. And I remember one day, it was like right before I was going to move back with my mom. We were waiting in my Theo's car. My Theo was furniture shopping, and we were like, nah, we're just going to chill in here. And he just asked me, what do you want to do with your life? I'm like, bro, I'm 13 years old. I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, fool. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to see, maybe update my MySpace real quick. Yeah, that's the second MySpace, plug. Dang it, I can't even ask Tom for money because he sold it.
Yeah, it's crazy. They're still around.
I know.
Yeah, literally.
I don't even know who's on it anymore.
Yeah.
But so he said, don't say athlete. I'm like, I didn't think I was going to be an athlete. I mean, he's like, you're going to be 5'7" forever. What's your backup plan?
It's crazy how I already knew all this.
I was just like, damn, fool, just come from my neck. What the hell did I do to you? So he's like, what do you like to do in school? I'm like, I just love to write essays, dude. I used to love when the writing text came around, tax test. For the younger audience members, it's the father of the STAR test.
Standardized test, yeah.
Yeah, standardized test, which is pointless. So he just told me, I was like, I love to write. I love writing essays. I would write 4-page essays, dude. Like nothing. Jeez. Like nothing in freaking elementary. Like I would just write about anything you can think of. And he's like, what else do you like? He's like, well, you're always like dropping these random sports stats out of nowhere. Like, where the hell does he get this from? He's like, you're a huge sports nut. He's like, why don't you combine the two and be a journalist? And I'm like, what the hell is a journalist?
Yeah.
He's like, it's a reporter. I was like, okay. He's like, you go to journalism school, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, okay, whatever. High school comes around. I'm at Burbank. I'm supposed to go to Lanier, but Cooper Middle School closed, so the borders kind of shifted. So, like, you went to 3 different middle schools. So I went to Lowell, which fed into Burbank.
Mm-hmm.
So Burbank didn't have anything there. Then my mom dies, and so when she died, I'm like, I need to figure out she died June 19th, 2010. I'm getting enrolled in August at Lee High School. I'm like, I need to figure out what I'm going to do. Let's try this journalism thing that Theo talked about. I asked the counselor, hey, do y'all have journalism? They're like, yeah, we have a great program. Dude, best Robert E. Lee High School.
Okay.
Lee High School. Whatever it is now, Legacy of Quién Sabe.
I remember the story too of the
The little girls.
yeah
We came here specifically
Yeah.
for the mascot.
yeah.
Oh my god, so extra. Like, what? You went to the school for that mascot? Dang. Who are your parents?
That was funny, bro.
So I get there. I land at the best newspaper, school newspaper in the state, third in the nation. Did not know that. So Brenda Sladden, she's retired now. Shout out to her. I told her, I was like, hey, I want to be a sports reporter someday, yada, yada, yada. She's like, okay. Dude, from my entire sophomore year, I wrote 50 stories.
Jesus Christ.
I don't even think I've written 50 stories since then.
Yeah.
And she's like, I created a monster. And they were terrible, like great information, just poorly written.
Yeah.
But that was just me. For me, it was like me coping with my mother's death because, side story, tried out for the basketball team. I was a pretty decent basketball player. I was A team at Burbank. I was hoping to be varsity in my sophomore year. And then, mother dies, life changes. I get to Lee, try it out. I go and you go get your letter, see if you made the team. The coach is like, you tried out? I was like, what the hell? I was like, I guess I didn't make it. And it crushed me, dude, because I'm like, dude, I just lost my best friend a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Now the one thing that kept me out of trouble has been taken away from me. And what made it even worse is people who made the team were like, you didn't make the team, bro? They're like you were like one of the best in tryouts. I was like, I guess, homeboy wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
Literally, the JV team went defeated. Their varsity didn't win anything. So I was salty. I was like, oh, let me write this story about them being trash.
Yeah.
So that was my way of coping is still get to do sports, which I love. Ran track. I was varsity track all 4 years. I love track. I love running. But got to do what I loved. And then life took me to Roosevelt. There was only 2 of us in the newspaper, bro. The teacher was a part-timer who worked at a middle school. Didn't even care about us. So then my senior year comes around. We get this new teacher who so happened to be the Robert E. Lee teacher's protege. She came from Madison. She went to Roosevelt. Incredible woman, Miss Berger, Allison Berger, and she's revived that program at Roosevelt. It's incredible. So I went there. She's like, hey, I want you to do this program. And then when I was about to graduate, hey, there's a journalism camp that San Antonio College is doing, 2 weeks. You get to stay at the UIW dorms. You'll meet all these professionals.
Yeah.
Signed up for that, did it, and that's what sold me on SAC. They're like, hey, we have one of the best programs. So-and-so's gone through this. So-and-so's gone through that program. And I met them personally, these people that they were just name dropping. Like, shoot, let me go there. Literally, man, I would cover SAC club basketball games. Not even like, because SAC doesn't have a legit basketball team. And shout out to Coach Lou Martinez, Lanier legend. Also coached the Toros.
I was actually just about to ask that's the name I was looking for. Because what year did you graduate?
High school?
High school.
2013.
Okay. So we graduated the same year. So my sophomore year, we had an AAU league, summer league. And we ended up playing Lanier. And I think this was 2011 maybe. And I think he was still coaching at the time. I'm not too sure. Does he still coach?
So he coaches the Toros still. So that's his program that he runs.
But what about Lanier?
I don't think he's ever coached at Lanier.
Maybe I'm thinking about somebody else.
You're thinking of Joseph Martinez.
Maybe.
Or his brother, maybe Mikey.
I don't know. He was there for a while though.
Or Rudy Burnell.
I don't know. Maybe
Rudy Burnell's like a Lanier legend. He coaches Antonian right now.
I'm gonna Google him.
Yeah, for sure. But so I would cover those games. And Lou, we had the West Side Ties. Gave me access to
Rudy Burnell.
Burnell, yeah, love Rudy Burnell, man. He just won a state championship, his second one with Antonian.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah. So where'd you go to high school?
I went to Southwest. High School, but we played Lanier.
Oh, so you went to school at Hoodlum then?
Yeah.
And what's his name too? Mario went there too, right? At the same time?
Yeah, actually had
because he's our age.
Yeah, I had Mario on here back in November. Man. Shout out to Mario, bro. He's fucking down to earth, bro.
Dude. I know John Michael is good friends with him.
Yeah.
So he always tells me about him. Dang, a lot of y'all went to Southwest. Shea Serrano went to Southwest too. What the heck?
Yeah, him too. Yeah. Funny thing about, so I was, this might have been like a couple years ago. He had tweeted his house number, from where he lived on the southwest side of San Antonio, and I think it was like 3 numbers, Lake Valley. His house that he lived in, I lived right next door when I was in Southwest High School. So like
Wow.
it must have, I don't know when he graduated, but
He
like
graduated like 99, 2000.
yeah,
Because
so
he's about to turn 40. So
oh yeah, okay. So I was living at his next door house like 20 years later. It was crazy, bro. Like
that is
he
funny.
posted a picture on Twitter with the address and everything. I
Yeah,
was
it's
just
that
like,
little house, like has a little driveway.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I live right next door. So I think it's like 174 Lake Valley.
Dude, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
So I was tripping out when I saw that tweet, and I was just like, this is insane. But yeah, yeah, that's
He's good people, man. Like he's always showed love to me.
Yeah.
Wait, where were we going with that? Oh, we're talking about basketball.
Yeah,
We're talking
yeah.
about basketball. So I would cover those games, dude, and I would treat it like I was covering the Spurs. Because I'm like, hey, like, I gotta get something out of this. And I think that's a lot what I want a lot of anybody who wants to be a journalist. Like your body of work's gonna take you places that a GPA can't. Now I'm not saying don't give a shit about your GPA. Obviously you do. But everyone's so focused about getting a 4.0, 4 point whatever. But when you get into the professional world, it's like, what can you do?
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're good at school, but like, how are you an asset to our entity, our company, or whatever, this publication, this news organization? Where I meet people who've gone to like prestigious journalism schools, they come out, can't even cultivate a source, can't even like do the things that I learned at SAC. Shout out the Ranger newspaper. That's the SAC newspaper. So I was there for 2 years. So from there, I go to A&M San Antonio. But in between that, I intern at La Prensa, which is totally different now. The La Prensa you see today, it's totally different. That's back when it was the paper owned by the Durans. So that's actually how I met Shay, is my editor at the time, Alyssa. She had said his name, and I had just, this is back when I was like a huge J. Cole fan. I was like, J. Cole this, J. Cole that.
Yeah.
Now I'm just like, I kind of grew up a little bit. No, I'm just joking.
No, he's still. I don't even think he makes music that much anymore. But yeah,
Yeah, for me, like his music, like it, I guess for high school me, early college me, it was perfect for me.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, not that I grew his music, because, you know, KOD was really good. One of my favorite songs is the interlude about his mom being addicted.
Yeah.
That's a song that I like. That shit made me cry. But I'm a huge Kendrick guy now. Not that you can't be a fan of both, but at that time I was a huge J. Cole fan. You know, huge J. Cole fan, and Shay would always bash him on Twitter. It's so funny. Like one time he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna do a speaking engagement."
I remember. Yeah.
He's like, "May the ghost of Selena may watch over me during this flight, and if I die, don't let my sons listen to J. Cole." So then.
Yeah.
He did an article where he attended a concert and interviewed people. Why is he so great? He really genuinely wanted to know. So I was like, man, I hate this guy. And then out of nowhere, maybe a day later, my editor, Alyssa, she's like, something Shea Serrano is about to be a New York Times bestseller. I was like, what? I was like, what was that name you just said? She's like, Shea Serrano. I was like, I hate that guy.
Yeah,
I was like, let me interview him. So I was going to drive out there with my best friend, but Shay moved it to the next day. So I took a bus and a cab out there because I was barely driving at the time. Took a bus and a cab out there. Took a cab from downtown Houston to Southside Houston, which is like, it's like a fucking $40-something, $30-something cab. So I meet him at this taqueria on the south side of Houston, and we're just chopping it up for an hour. I'm like, man, he's a cool guy, man. Like, really cool guy. And, you know, he's like, how'd you get here? I told him, took a bus and a cab. And, you know, gave me some good advice. And then, you know, he shouted me out on Twitter that day. And then couple years later, saw him at the bookstore, and I was like, hey, do you remember me? He's like, yeah, you came out to Houston to interview me, and I was about to graduate college. How you doing? Yada, yada, yada. I was like, yeah, you know, I got a couple jobs lined up, hopefully. And then, you know, we've been friends since then. You know, we just text every now and then, see how he's doing. I'm glad he's back into San Antonio because spent a great deal of his time in Houston, but, you know, he's done a lot of great work since he's been here, man. You know, he's been raising a lot of money for a lot of orgs. It's just really cool to see another San Antonio guy putting on, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be a 4-time New York Times bestseller, you know, by the time this book comes out. But he's good people, man. Like, I actually introduced him to John Michael because I had Shay on my podcast. John Michael's like, all right, so who are we going to interview? Or who are you going to interview? Or I told him I need a picture. He thought I already recorded it, and he's in my car. This dude never gets starstruck with anybody. He's just chill guy, just like whatever.
Yeah.
It's like Shea Serrano, and he just looks at me. That dude's low-key my hero. So he was like in awe of them. And it was cool. Like I played dumb when I, you know, introduced them to each other. I was like, Shay, where'd you go to high school? I already knew what he went to high school. And he's like, Southwest. hey, didn't you go there, John Michael? So then they started
Just-
talking about
yeah.
Rachel's Country Corner, all this stuff that I didn't know about. I was like, I don't even know what the hell y'all talking about. I'm from the West Side, dude. Like, I don't go anywhere past 90 or 410, fool. So
Yeah.
I don't even know what y'all are talking about. But it's just cool. Like, that was a part of my journey. And this guy, like, when he shouted me out on the Bill Simmons podcast, he's like, there's this kid that I met, Jose, hardworking, writer, yada, yada, yada. I named myself sports guy after Bill Simmons. So, like, for Bill Simmons to know that I exist, you know, and this is when I was working at a coffee shop freelancing, you know, it was just crazy. I'm like, what the heck? And, you know, for me, like, I have friendships with people like that, but I never exploit those friendships, those relationships. They want to, like, offer a helping hand, cool, but I'll never ask for help. I'm like, you know what? Your friendship is all I need. Like, I got to where I'm at by myself, not by myself, but through the help of people, but, you know, I did it without having to get over on people. Like, that's not who I am. You know, so there was that. You know, I get to A&M San Antonio University is a breeze. I just start, you know, doing community stories. And at this time, I'm interning at Spectrum News, covering the Spurs games. So I'm at every home game. And it was the year we made it to the conference finals and lost to the Warriors. So I was there when Kawhi got hurt. I was there when Ginobili blocked. Well, I wasn't there when Ginobili blocked Harden because I was sick. That was the only game that I missed.
Jeez.
That was the only game that I wasn't at.
So this is what, 2016?
2017.
2017? Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, I got a scholarship. And the reason why I got this internship was summer 16. I got the San Antonio Association Hispanic Journalism Scholarship, which now I'm a board member of. So now I'm able to give away scholarships to kids. And so I get the scholarship. I'm at an after party. I tell my professor, who I thought she hated me because we always butt heads in the newsroom. She's like, hey, before you leave, I want to, she never vouches for anybody. I kid you not. Like, you got to be great for her to vouch for you. I want to introduce you. This is Michael Pearsons. He's no longer the director. He's the director of Spectrum News. And he's like, hey, Jose, he had this rowdy country accent. He's from Connecticut. I don't even know where he got the country accent from. Nice to meet you. How would you like a job? She's like, Trisha's told me all about you, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, sir, I would like to graduate first. You know, I don't want to be a statistic, you know. And if I, you know, something happens, I at least have a degree to fall on or whatever. All right, how about an internship? I was like, yeah. All right, first thing I want you to cover is the corruption in collegiate sports. It's like, okay, whatever. Whatever you say, sir. Literally, I email him the next day. He connects me with the senior sports producer. This is Jose. He's your new intern. I was like, what the heck?
That quick.
And it was because of I was treating the SAC basketball like if it was, you know, the Spurs. It's because I was treating these, you know, these small newspaper stories like if it was, you know, the New York Times. And it paid off. And, you know, so I'm there. But while I'm there, I'm like, it's weird. Like, I have a poster of some of these players on my wall and I'm here interviewing them. This is weird. But that was a moment for me. It was fall 2016 where I'm like, this is great. And I had started a blog at the time. I was like, and then in the blog, I would highlight people on the West Side. I was like, but this is way more fulfilling than X's and O's. And I think that was a turning point for me. My mentor, Vincent Davis, who's the greatest writer in San Antonio, even better than Shea, even better than anybody. He's been my mentor since I was 17. Came to speak to my class. I told him I'm going to do this, this, and that. And he's like, all right, I believe you. Followed me on Twitter, kept up with me, wrote recommendations letter for me, let me shadow him. And I remember him sharing one of my blogs. I was like, how did this fool even find my blog? Dang. And he said, you found your voice, young man. Continue that stride. And I was like, what the heck? So, you know, from that point on, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to finish this internship out. I'm going to get a lot out of it, learn how to operate in front of a TV camera, whatever. But I don't see myself doing TV. And I started writing stories. You know, the Women's March, that was spontaneous. Over 1,500 women just showed up. That got me second in the nation for Society of Professional Journalists. I did a story on the handball courts on the West Side, got me first place in Society of Professional Journalists. And it was just weird. I'm like, dude, these are like stories that matter, and like I'm getting recognized for it. And, like, that's so cool. Not only me, but these people that I'm doing these stories on. So 2017 was like huge turning point for me, and from that point on, I interned at Follow Media, which doesn't exist anymore. We focused on inequality. From that point on, I'm like, this is the stuff I'm gonna do. Like, the Spurs, how many people are covering the Spurs? How many people? Like, so many people.
Yeah, so many people.
They don't need another reporter covering them, you know, unless there's like another story. Like, I did a story on the dancing usher, Eric Burt. I did a story on him last year. It was a Spurs story, but it was him losing his job because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Him losing his job at St. Philip's, you know, him being a year anniversary, him losing his sister. So I did a follow-up story. He's excited, putting his vest on, Achiflado, putting his tie on. Like, he's excited to be back, spreading joy to the fans. Even if we lose, we're gonna remember. Hey, remember when the dancing usher? We lost by 20, but damn, remember the dancing usher was pop locking and drop it. That was so much fun. Like it was cool. So like stories like that to me are what really matter. So that was a huge turning point for me. So after college, I 2018, I graduated May 2018 from A&M San Antonio. So from that point on, I did high school sports for the Express News as a freelancer. Vincent Davis got me through the other door of covering communities. And that was like they had just gutted their newsroom. People were losing jobs and they were letting me double dip. They never let anybody double dip. So once again, they're like, hey, here's your shot. Show what you can do on the sports site and show what you can do in the communities. And I was hitting the front page, dude. And you're not supposed to be hitting the front page as a freelancer. They would even lie. They would change my title. It would say Jose Arredondo correspondent. That means you're a freelancer.
Yeah.
They would change it to staff writer.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, no. Let them know that I'm not on your salary. Let them know that I don't have benefits. Let them know that I'm just a freelancer. So then, like I said earlier, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, 2019 comes around. I've been doing my thing for a year and a half now. Spectrum calls. And it was the perfect marriage, It's a journey, man. It was a journey. There's so many times where I fell on my face. There's so many times where you just have writer's block and you feel helpless. There's so many times where it's like, man, everybody else is like, are you sure this is the right thing for you? Are you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, what if it doesn't work out for you? I'm like, that's not an option. And
it has to.
For me, like, that's my message to people out there is like, yo, like, you don't need anybody to validate your dreams. Like, they don't see it, that's on them. But as long as you see it, as long as you feel it, like, just keep going. Because, bro, I struggled for a minute. Like, that's the sanitized version. When the book comes out, I don't know when it's gonna come out. I'll go into detail because, bro, like it was hard, man. It was hard doing free internships when you're working full time and you have to pay your own bills, pay your rent, pay your car.
I say this all the time, man. Not to cut you off. But
go for it, bro.
People like being at the championship. People like being at the end. But they don't want to be there when you're struggling. They don't want to be there when you're working for free. They don't want to be there when you have issues with yourself that you need to get right. They don't want to be there when family members die or anything just that can fuck up your train of thought that's struggling. They just want to be at the end going, I say it all the time, like, be there. Friends, family.
Yeah.
It means a lot. People will remember people will remember a lifetime when you're there, when they're struggling. Yeah, it goes a long way. Trust me, people.
Bro, my best friend, Vanessa Gary, she would always tell people, this is where a freshman at SAC, this is Jose Luis. He's going to be working for such and such. He's going to be doing all these big things. Like, I need to watch out for him. And I remember that. And she's still my best friend to this day because, she saw what I saw. Yeah. Vincent Davis, he's another one. I just did a story on him recently. One of my, most watched stories, because a lot of reporters, a lot of people in general can resonate. Everybody has a Vincent Davis in their life, and for him, everything that, my foundation, all of that is because of him, people like him. And he's one that taught me, he's like, hey, he's the one who taught me. People trust you with their stories, so treat them with the respect.
Yep.
So if I'm interviewing a homeless guy, I'm going to sit down on the floor with him. I'm not going to be like, all right.
Yeah.
It's like, no. And I didn't realize that I do that subconsciously because he and I had lunch. And I was like, yeah, I was talking to this homeless guy I built a relationship with. His name is Alberto. He hangs out on 35 in Laredo reading his Bible. And I just, we just have coffee, food, and we just sit down and talk. And he's like, did you hear yourself? I was like, did I do something wrong? He's like, no. You sat down with him. He's like, pay attention to those things. He's like, your body language. Let people know that you're one of them and you're just not a reporter. And that's one thing that I always stress to my coworkers is like, yo, like, just be yourself. Just listen to the people. Let them get whatever they need to get off their chest because that's probably gonna be the only time they can get that off their chest. A lot of people, like a lot of us don't like to express. I love to express my feelings because of therapy, but a lot of people out there, man, they don't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And them talking to me is like, a highlight. And also it's like they get to vent to me. Then also I get to, highlight something good in their life. And it's just really cool. I love my job, dude. I love my job. I get to do what my mother was doing. My mother gave back a lot. We were not super poor. We were definitely living in poverty, living off of food stamps, but she would still give back. And I'm like, dude, I need to do what she did, but take it to another level. Obviously I can't do it the way she did because that's her thing. So like this is my way of like doing, continue my mother's purpose
Yeah.
essentially.
You, I think you said something off air that kind of stuck with me, and I've talked about it before. I've seen it on my Instagram stories, on my Instagram reels. Vulnerability.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable is looked down upon so much, but being able to express yourself to um, anybody, being able to have this conversation that we're having right now, like
Yeah.
I didn't even know your mother passed, and that was just something that kind of that tells me right off the bat you have more motivation than someone else that
Yeah.
doesn't have that. That's just it's fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
But I mean, having that freaking vulnerability to be able to say stuff like that is it's tremendous, man. People will I've noticed right off the back, like the conversation we're having, and people need to learn how to express themselves, because just letting out and venting to somebody in general is huge. It can take a lot of weight off your.
So huge, man. It's so huge.
Yeah.
It's just like, especially with guys, man. Like everyone's all
Oh.
macho and stuff. Like
Yeah.
you're like, my girlfriend. Like now she understands. Like man, like, or even my friends, because I have a lot of friends that are girls, and they're like, man,
Yeah.
like, you're just like, they're like, I wish, my partner, whoever would like open
Yeah.
up to me, and like
Yeah.
you just do it naturally. It's like, no, it took me a long time to get to
Yep.
this point because I used to bottle everything, and it wasn't until I graduated college where it hit me because it's like there's no more internship, there's no more school, it's just work. So I'm stuck there with my thoughts, I'm stuck there with my feelings,
Yep.
and it overwhelmed me because I would cry, I would randomly cry. I'm like, what's going on with me? Like, what's wrong with me? And I went to counseling, and we got to the root of it. They're like, hey, like you just reached a major milestone. You just graduated college,
Yep.
second in your family of 60 plus first cousins on just your mom's side alone. Like this is a huge milestone for you. And like when you deal with tragedy, like losing your parent at a young age, you're gonna deal with this in milestones. So when you get married, you become a father, when your kids graduate, things like that, like it's gonna hit you. But at least now I'm prepared for it. It's not gonna catch me off guard the way it did when I graduated college.
Yep.
That it was scary because I'm like, I did everything right. Like I didn't start drinking until 24. Never smoked in my life, never done drugs,
Yep.
And I'm like, I coped with my mother's death and health with music,
That
writing.
is
And I'm like,
shit.
what the hell? Like, what did I do wrong? And she's like, no, you did everything right as a teenager and an early 20-year-old, but you're a 23-year-old in the profession, in the real world now. It's totally different, and
Yeah.
that's when I realized, like, okay.
Yeah, just to go back, I've struggled with like just keeping everything to myself for the longest time. Literally, it didn't even hit me until last year. I mean, I can talk about it now because it's all open, but being able to talk about like a breakup or that I was personally wrong in having that happen, the pandemic, being home, being able to not go places, seeing your family, friends, literally the gym, like everything was just closed. So being able to kind of take your feelings, express them in a different way. That's literally the fucking podcast I'm having now. This was my coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Like, hey, at the time I wasn't expressing feelings, but hey, let me talk and let me bring people on. Let me like having that comfort from someone being here was just kind of my way of like letting loose and letting everything that I did wrong. But that was one of the things that was hard, man. And I learned it the hard way.
Yeah.
I fucked up. I've said it before on podcasts before.
Yeah.
I think 2 or 3 podcast episodes before we're airing this one. I cried on the episode with, luckily it was my mom. It wasn't someone else, but like just having that relationship with her and being able to actually cry on camera, put it on YouTube, having people see it on Instagram. Like you, if you would have told me 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that I would be doing this and crying on fucking social media, like literally it wouldn't have happened. I would have said you're fucking crazy. Like that's how much I've changed over the years. And another thing too, and I'm gonna fucking go off topic. A lot of people think that people can't change or certain situations that will happen that you're still not gonna be the same. Let me tell you, people change, and another thing that I will always offer and will always strive for is because I've been given is a second chance. I've been given second chances all throughout my life. And there's been times where I've taken advantage. There's been times where I put them to use, but people change, man. And it takes a while. There's a process to it. But if you know, you know. But I want to get back a story that you were talking about off air that kind of triggered me because it's happening right now, where it just literally happened. The story that you just recently did with
Oh, yesterday?
yes, yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
So if you could talk about that, and then
Yeah.
maybe we can get into, because I mentioned it on maybe it was maybe it was the last podcast episode I did about how freaking collegiate sports, specifically NCAA women's sports, like they had literally a freaking rack of weight compared to men's. Well, I wouldn't even say men's. I guess college boys sports, but how everything is literally different from just different. Like literally the weight room. It doesn't even have to be the way they are approached.
The weight room?
Yeah.
The food.
It's crazy. But if you want to talk about the story you just did and how it's transitioning and how that transitions to like college sports.
Well, it's everywhere though. It's just not even just, but we'll use as an example. So I actually did a similar story a couple weeks ago. So my boss was like, "Hey, I want you to do a story on the tournament, but don't make it about games. Find an angle." And right off the top of my head, I'm like, there's this guy that I know. He's been a big fan of mine since I was in college. He loves sharing my stories. His daughter's been hooping since she was a little girl. She's 12 now, 12 or 13. And so I thought of her, did the story that same day too. It was so weird. And they went to Dallas the following day. So I'm glad I called him when I did. And so I met up with her and I was like, "Hey, I told him, this is what I want to do. I want to do a story on how the whole tournament, not even just the Sweet 16 Final Four, the whole tournament was here in San Antonio. How vital that is for little girls in San Antonio who have hoop dreams." And he's like, "Yeah, let me talk to the coach." Coincidentally, one of the coaches, she's from San Antonio. She went to Stevens, played ball at Western Kentucky all 4 years, and then played professionally for 4 years. So not only do I have this little girl who's inspired by Sue Bird, Dee Dee Richards, who plays at Baylor, she has a mentor figure who's been there, done that as her coach. So it was just really cool. She was tying her Kyrie's, and I asked her, "What's your favorite, first moment ever?" She's like, "One time I just got on the court, I was dribbling the ball, and I hit a crossover, and I made a layup." And she's like, "I didn't even know how I did it. It was just because." And it was like a cool first basketball moment for her as a little kid. She's still a little kid, but it's so funny when little kids are like, back in the day, I'm like back when I was a kid, I'm like, "You're still a kid. Like, stop it." So she's explaining that to me, and then talk to the coach. I'm like, "Hey, how does it feel to kind of create a path for these young girls?" And she's like, "It's amazing." She's like, "I never saw myself coaching, but here I am. And I'm able to help these young girls, get to this point." And I asked her, "How vital is it to have this tournament here, the entire tournament here?" She said, "When you see someone that looks like you, walks like you, talks like you, and they're doing something, they make it attainable. It's tangible." It's so it was just a cool story. And then a couple weeks later, they're like, "Hey, our national networks, since we're owned by LA, and we have our other stations too. We have our Ohio, New York one, Tampa." They're like, they want us to do 2 NCAA stories. We want you to do one on Friday. I was like, "All right, cool." They're like, "Can you find something?" I was like, "Yeah." Well, and then they're like, "Okay, we're not going to ask you that question." Because literally my boss was like, "You would literally know somebody." Like they call me Mr. San Antonio. My girlfriend gets mad or not mad, but she's just like, "Who the hell calls you that?" I was like, "I don't know." I spoke to some UT kids, journalism students, a couple months ago. And they put a flyer out. All my coworkers call me that because they're based out of Austin, Dallas. So they're like, "Dude, you just know everybody in San Antonio." I'm just like, I moved around a lot. So I asked the girl's father, Isaac, who his daughter I interviewed a couple weeks ago. I was like, "Does she have a teammate that I can interview?" Because the whole team went to the UConn Baylor game. And I was like, "I'm going to use that. I'm going to have her talk about that experience, what it was like to be in that atmosphere, what it's like to love basketball." So then, he connected me with this woman. Her name's Alma, and her daughter, Addie. They call her Addie P. And met with him yesterday morning in Pleasanton. So I drove an hour out, went to Pleasanton, hung out with them at their house, and interviewed the girl. And she was talking about, she just showed me that she loves basketball. She loves Legos, dude. She built the Golden State Warriors logo out of Legos.
Shit.
I was like, "Geez." We went in her closet. all these Kyries, all these LeBrons. I'm like, man, I'm like jealous of this
Must
kid,
be
man.
nice.
Right? I was like, dang. I was like,
Yeah.
and I wanted to emphasize this girl loves basketball.
Yeah.
She was pinning her Kobe Bryant poster on her wall. She has a Michigan banner because she loves the Michigan girls team. She loves Paige Beckers from UConn. Literally, dude, her basketball court is like one of those tile basketball courts. Huge Golden State Warriors colorway. Huge basketball court. Like it was incredible. Yeah. So I wanted to emphasize like, hey, like this girl loves basketball. And she's a small town girl. She lives in Pleasanton.
Yeah.
You know, after attending, you know, the Sweet 16 game, you know, for her, she's just like, it made me want to get better. She was studying the girls, how they were playing, the women, how they were playing. Like, even though she was in awe of seeing her heroes, she was like wanting to be better. Oh, I need to get better at court awareness. I need to get better at this because my hero is great at this.
Yeah.
And she was just saying how cool it was and how one day she wants to play for UConn or Baylor or Michigan or Oregon, and then she'll be on the WNBA. Like, she didn't say, you know, like, I hope to be. She's like, I'm going to be.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's vital for little girls like that, especially in San Antonio. Like, you know, guys hoops is very emphasized, but I'm like, if you really think about it, statistically speaking, we're more than likely to have a WNBA player to come out of here than we do an NBA player.
Yep.
You know, because we're just a bunch of, you know, short people. Like, we may be skilled and stuff, but it's very rare that we have, like, yeah, we have Jordan Clarkson, we have Prince, we have who was Roberson.
Yep.
But those are rare, dude. It's very rare. And so it's like we need to support these young girls, man, because they deserve it. And the reason why I say, you know, that issue is everywhere, the whole weight room thing, the food thing, is because it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Women are mistreated, dude. There's a wage gap. There's a wage gap issue.
100%.
And every time I do a speaking engagement with journalism schools, I always dedicate like I talk to all the kids, but I dedicate the last 20, 25 minutes to the girls. And I always throw the harsh realities at them. And I tell them, I'm like, I'm glad y'all want to pursue this career. And I want this to derail you. I want this to motivate y'all even more. You're going to be passed up by guys that are not even nearly as qualified as you, not as skilled as you, not as talented as you. Like, they won't even exist in your universe, but you're probably going to get passed up. Don't let that derail you, because workplaces like that don't deserve to have you. And when you do get hired by a workplace, it's going to be the right one that appreciates you and values you. I was like, please don't let that derail you. Like, y'all are needed. I know y'all look up to me, but I may not have all the answers, you know, because they're like, yeah, you're a brown guy from the hood, yada, yada, yada. But I was like, I don't know what it's like to be a woman.
Yep.
I don't like to be a brown woman or a black woman. Like, they're constantly mistreated. Like, you know, their pay is just terrible. Like, the offers that they get are just laughable. And I have a friend, I won't say her name. She's a journalist. Her spouse also works in the journalism field. And she had told me one time that they applied for the same job. She was way more qualified than him.
Jeez.
They offered him more pay and moving expenses. They offered her less pay and no moving expenses. And they were both like, nope, we're going somewhere else. That alone just like, it just frustrates me, because it's like, man, like, there's so many gifted women. And then on top of that, even when they do get these roles, they're constantly disrespected by misogynistic guys on social media. Like, you see it all the time on Twitter, all the time. It's just like an idiot that wants to generate likes with a played out joke that was never funny to begin with. A played out joke that was never funny to begin with. And it's just so frustrating to see that. And I do my best to help them out, but I always tell them, like, I only have so many answers, but I will, you know, I'll link you with a woman who's killing it, who's doing it, and she can really tell you what it's like. I only know as a straight male, I only see what I see. I speak up for women, especially in the journalism field, but it's everywhere, dude. It's everywhere where they're just mistreated, passed up, and it's annoying. It gets annoying. It's like we're in 2021, dude, and like it's like, come on now. It's just women are, especially like black and brown women.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's another layer. You know, now that we have trans women who are like, I did a story on a black trans woman that I met last year. I saw her at every protest, and I just wanted to do a story on her. You know, dude, their life expectancy is like early 30s. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, they're kidnapped. They're targeted.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my gosh. And, you know, it's it's just crazy, man. Like we live in a male dominated world, and you just want to see more women thrive. And even at that, like when these women are in these places, they got to deal with harassment. They got to deal with
Yeah, on top of everything.
on top of
Yeah.
everything, man. Like I said, I have a lot of friends that are women, and like I just hear these stories constantly, and it's just like, man. So it triggers me as a guy who has 5 sisters, was raised by a single mother. Has friends that are mainly women. It's just frustrating because
Yeah.
you see it, and like there's times where if I'm at a bar with some friends that are girls, and like once, I think it was like 2 years ago, this guy touched my friend's hair, and she's a black woman. She has these braids, and he touched her hair, and I was pushed the fuck, and I'm like, dude, like what the fuck's your deal? Like she told you like she doesn't want to talk to you, and some other guy came up to my homegirl and her friend, and luckily for that guy, he knew one of my good friends. So I just told him, I was like, get your boy before I get him, because once again, he touched my friend's homegirl's hair, and I'm like, bro, like,
What?
like what would even drive? Like, dude, I don't know. I don't get men because, dude, I'm scared. Like back when I was single, I would be scared to approach a woman or double text a girl because I'm like, damn, I'm bothering her.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just how I am. But dudes are brave, man. Like they're fucking brave. I don't get it.
And then on top of how touching hair, what is, I don't know.
I don't know that, or just like, I don't know. Dudes are stupid,
Yeah.
man. Like, oh my God. But oh my God, it's just they're so stupid, and like it's like, fuck, dude. Like I can only check so many of you at the same time,
Yeah.
But if I gotta get jumped, for what's right, then fuck it, whatever.
Let's do it. Shit. Well, we're concluded. I want to ask you though,
Yeah.
for someone that's looking to be on the news, looking to maybe take some courses, looking to just, I guess, advice in general towards this career, or maybe even in life in general. What's a piece of like advice you can give to someone that is aspiring? I don't know the correct term.
No, aspire. You're right.
Yeah,
You're right. You were right.
to be in a field that you're in right now.
I would say find out what medium you want to do, and flirt with all of them. I did writing, I did photography, I did on camera, and I thought writing was my calling, and then Spectrum was like, no man, like you got something that deserves to be in front of a camera, that and they saw that in me, and I honestly didn't see at the time. I knew I could get creative, but I mean not where like my creativity now, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But flirt with all of them, see what you like, take advantage of your resources, but do research on the schools you go to. I just met a kid. Well, he's not a kid. He's like my age. Graduated from UTSA, but didn't have any experience. And, UTSA has a communications program, yeah, but they don't have like many opportunities unless you're doing the paisano or something. You don't have many opportunities to have body of work to build a portfolio. And I remember he called me last year, one of my old professors from SAC. Excuse me. I guess she was trying to sell him on the idea of SAC. And so he called me one day. He sent me this long message like, yeah, bro, like people get shocked when hey, can I interview you for a school? And I'm like, yeah. Is it cool if I call you in like an hour? And they're like, what the heck? Like it just freaks them out. I'm like, dude, like they swear like I'm like this figure that's untouchable. Like, no, dude, I'm like people have so much access to me. Like, well, not everybody, I protect my peace. But if it's someone trying to learn or, whatever, I'm like, yeah. So talk to him on the phone. I'm like, hey, like, I would say your best bet, because you need a body of work to get an internship, that's out of question right now.
Mm-hmm.
So go to SAC, get your clips. Don't even graduate from there. Just get your clips. You already have your degree. Just get your body of work, and then use that. Get yourself an internship. Use that. Flip that to something else, so on and so forth. And now, dude is has a whole semester under his belt. He's killing it. He's freelancing with one of my old mentors, Ben Olivo, who runs the San Antonio Heron. So he's doing freelance for them. He's doing freelance for other places, and I'm like, there you go, bro. Like you're in the right track, bro. Like actually, I'm about to do a story on him. The premise of that is being a journalism student. In COVID, you can't be in a newsroom. You can't have that newsroom feeling where you're bouncing ideas off of people. You don't have that physical interaction. So these kids are kind of getting robbed of that, which sucks.
Yeah.
So So my advice is figure out where you want to go. Like, don't think the most prestigious school is going to benefit you. It's for me, it's like it's a relationship. It's not a one size fits all. Some places were, you know, are meant for you. They're meant, you know, for your growth. Um, just keep putting a body of work out. You know, start a blog, buy a camera, not the most expensive camera, but go take pictures. You know, put stuff
Yep.
together. Be proactive because no one's gonna give you anything. Honestly, no one's gonna give you anything. No one cares.
Yeah.
No one cares about us.
I've met several people that are, because I tell people all the time, like, find out your passion. And when I
Yeah.
say passion, it's like, what do you like doing? What do you like doing that's you can be doing on a daily basis that's you enjoy?
When times get hard,
Yeah.
you can be like, hey, at least I'm doing what I love.
Yeah, exactly. And people, "Oh, how do I know my passion?" And you hit it right on the point. I mean, it's gonna translate to regular life, but like flirt with everything, figure out, do different shit.
Yeah.
If like, I don't know, go be a fucking trash can guy that picks up trash all day. If you don't like that, switch
Yeah.
to a fucking
Hey, learn a trade.
yeah,
Like,
something, literally anything, and figure out what you like doing. And you'll trust me, people have a hard time figuring out what they like doing, but it's just
Yeah.
like you have to try, you have to get experience in everything, and then figure out. There'll be a certain point in time where you're gonna figure out what you like,
Yeah.
and that's what you go with. But
and one thing I always tell people is like, I'm fortunate because I knew what I wanted to do since forever.
yeah,
I never had to deal with, oh man, I had to switch my major my sophomore year. I had to do this. I like literally, I never second guessed me being a reporter. Never.
Yeah.
Never. So that's one thing I tell them. I'm like, hey, like, what you're going through, I never had to go through it. So I only know what I know, but I'll find someone who can help you out who went through that. Because I'm not going to sit here and act like I know everything. If I don't know something, you know, I'll direct you to somebody else. I don't want to lead you, you know, in the wrong direction or give you bad advice. Like no one ever gave me bad advice that like really cared about me and my career. So it's like I'm not going to do the same for other people. So, you know, do that. You know,
yeah,
like you know, you just said, just flirt with everything, figure out what you want, and don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid. Like people mistake failing for failure, and it's not two different things. To me, a failure is someone who quits, someone who gives up on what their
Yep.
purpose is. Because we all have a purpose. A lot of us die without figuring it out, which is sad. Don't be that person because we have one life to live. As cliche as it sounds, we only have one life to live. So why, like, you know, one of my favorite speakers always says, "You're gonna die whether you're on the field or you're in, or no, whether you're in the stands or in the field.
Yep.
So might as well get some playing time, you know, because like we're gonna die regardless, you know.
It's guaranteed. It's the only thing guaranteed in life.
Yeah, it's death, dude, and it's you know, it's just go do it. Especially with the pandemic, I feel like hopefully the pandemic gave a lot of people a sense of urgency and showed them like, you know what, like, because a lot of people are in situations where it's like, I gotta work to live.
Yep.
And you know, a lot of people lost their jobs, and it's like, shoot, I don't even have a job anymore. Might as well do what I want to do. And there's a lot of people that's their situation. But anyone who wants to be a journalist out there, like, it's not the best paying job, but if you're damn good at it, the money's gonna come. You know,
Yeah.
I'm getting taken care of.
Just keep working.
You know,
keep working.
just keep working. Figure out, you know, your why in life. That's another thing that's kind of cliche now, but you know, why are you doing this? Who are you doing this for? You know, and when times, like I said earlier, when times get hard, like I think about my little sister, I think about my nieces and nephews,
Yeah.
I think about the kids from the hood. It's like, shoot, they're depending on me, whether they realize it or not, because kids emulate what they see, you know, and just understand the power that you have if you want to pursue this career. That's pretty much it, man.
Yeah. No, that's good advice, man. It's we'll cap it off right here. I just first want to thank you again for coming down here. Means a lot to me, bro. Means a lot to me. Shit you talked about is real life. Shit you're covering is real life, and that's what was kind of just drawing me towards you. Not only Hector was like a huge advocate for you, but just like that's actually how I got introduced. I don't know if you know this, but I saw your clip on Twitter of Hector, his whole story.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know you at the time, but this was like, I don't know, December maybe.
Yeah, it was December, yeah.
And I was just like, God damn, that's fucking dope. Like, and then he came on, and yeah, that long story short, I already said it in the beginning, but
That's dope.
yeah, man, I seen your work, and I was just like, yeah, this is this is what I'm about, showing the real life situations of everyday people on a broader spectrum where everybody can see, because
Broader what?
I said it, spectrum.
Spectrum News 1. Tune in, guys. No, I'm kidding.
But just yeah, a broader platform where everybody can see, because people in Alamo Heights are not going to see the people that is on the San Juan courts. Like, just life is very, very different. Culture is different too as well. There's a lot of disadvantages in these communities, and you're a huge advocate for it. So I definitely appreciate you coming down here again.
I appreciate that, bro.
Give them one more time your Instagram handle, Twitter handle, so they can follow you.
So at Sports Guy Jose, Twitter, Instagram, or you could just Google me and put Spectrum News, and I'll pop. Literally everything will pop up.
First one, like that, bro.
No, like
that.
literally. But I want to be there. There's a Jose Arredondo out there. He played baseball like 10 years ago. He played for the Angels. And my whole thing is, when you type in Jose Arredondo, I want to be the first one, because I'm behind that guy.
You're working towards it, bro.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, this is episode 38. Shout out to Jose again. Shout out to y'all for watching. All streaming platforms, go check it out. If you're listening on podcast platforms, head over to the YouTube, check us out, subscribe, like, comment, check if that like button is working one more time. We are out here, guys. Until next time, peace.
Stay brown.